Continuing coverage tonight as we come on the air. Heartbreaking news after police in Alabama confirmed they found human remains they believe are that of Anaya Blanchard. She's the missing student from Southern Union Community College in Wadley, that's in East Alabama. Police have been searching for Blanchard since October 23rd, and officials say the remains were found in a wooded area. We'll keep an eye on any additional developments about those remains. In the meantime, a third suspect has been arrested and charged in the Blanchard case. David Johnson Jr. was arrested today in Montgomery. He's been charged with hindering prosecution. It came out in court that he lived with the second suspect in Blanchard's case, Antoine Fisher. Fisher, along with Ibrahim Yazid, are facing kidnapping charges. Fisher made his first court appearance today after being arrested on Friday. He was ordered to be held without bond. Also developing tonight, the remains of Taylor Williams, a missing 5-year-old girl from Florida, were positively identified today. Williams was reported missing in Jacksonville by her mother, Brianna Williams, on November 6th. The sheriff's office said Brianna stopped cooperating with them days later. She's in jail on child neglect charges and giving false information to law enforcement, and she's being held on a $1.1 million bond. She's due in court in December.
It is a real problem when we just look for one thing. But it's amazing how it stirs people's fear and it draws all that attention.
Human trafficking is a prevalent issue in Middle Georgia due to our central location and accessibility through major roadways. Now, some in the community have linked through social media posts shared thousands of times the issue of human trafficking to white vans. Now, there's a scientific reason behind our inclination to quickly post these white vans to our feeds.
Psychologically, it's called confirmation bias. It's an efficiency for sort of narrowing down the complexity of our life. You buy a new car, and then all of a sudden, you see that car all over the place, and you hadn't even noticed it before. So when somebody raises our attention about a thing, we begin to see it more.
In the next half hour, we'll show you how this bias might prevent vital clues of human trafficking from being detected. Well, recently, the state of Georgia was awarded an A grade on the strength of its laws to combat sex trafficking. That's an improvement from the B grade received last year and the C from the first report card in 2011. The award comes from Shared Hope International. Human trafficking is an initiative First Lady Marty Kemp has tackled since her husband, Governor Brian Kemp, was elected. She's praised the new rating, calling it a major accomplishment for the state, but says the work isn't finished. She goes on to say, we'll continue to fight to dismantle this criminal enterprise and restore the lives of the countless victims. All right, boy, another chilly night shaping up across Middle Georgia. Jeff Cox is tracking the falling temperatures in the Skywatch Weather Center. Jeff, good evening to you.
Aaron, good evening to you and good evening, everyone. Certainly a chilly night shaping up across the mid-state. It's already cold tonight, and we've still got the rest of the night to go. Look at the latest numbers just in. Dublin, you're already down to 36. Gray, you're at 38. It's just now 10 o'clock, so we've got a clear sky and a calm wind, and boy, that's allowing these temperatures to drop like a rock. 40 in Macon, 42 in Warner Robins. If you're an early riser Tuesday, no doubt about it, you'll need the winter jacket. So here's our day planner, and the 39 may be wishful thinking. Let's see, my graphics jumped ahead on me there. That 39 may be wishful thinking. Mid-50s by lunchtime, up around 60 for 5 o'clock. So overall, the day looks pretty nice with a mix of sun and clouds by the afternoon. But based on the current cooling trend, we may have to reevaluate our forecast of 39 at 8 o'clock. All right, coming up in just a bit, we've got a rain chance for the middle part of the week. I'd say have the umbrella ready, but if you don't need it, don't be surprised. We'll walk you through it hour by hour. You'll see what I mean. We'll have the national maps as we look ahead to Thanksgiving and all the travel that you may be doing. And what about some rain this weekend? I think the short answer is it's possible, but when and for how long and how does it impact your plans? We'll break it down, plus your 10-day forecast. That's coming up in just a bit.
All right, Jeff, we'll see you then. A violent weekend across Macon. 4 shootings, 2 armed robberies, and 2 people are dead. One of the victims is 18-year-old Antoine Williams. Evangelist Tamika Prouty says her and her husband started a traveling ministry in Macon. Prouty says this was when she met Williams and says that he quickly became like family to her and her husband. The Bibb County Sheriff's Office says Williams was shot multiple times.
Antoine, very lovable, very fun, such a sweetheart. his goal was to be a rapper one day, and so you would see him making beats and rapping.
And Williams' homicide remains under investigation. New tonight, a topic we've brought to you for the past month continues to develop. There was a special called meeting in Warner Robins today to discuss the charter. Wgxa's Jayla Whitfield was there and continues to track the updates on this. Jayla.
Aaron, that's right. For over a month now, the charter has been a main topic of discussion. Now, what I can tell you is a charter is a set of guidelines that the city of Warner Robins abides by. And that charter review calls for some discussion because there were some problems found in it. Today, community members got to voice their concerns.
That if you're going to make a charter change, any kind of change in the charter, you need to do something that'll stand the test of time.
The state asked for and received a review of the Warner Robins Charter by the University of Georgia's Carl Vinson Institute. It compares the city to others across the state.
Anytime you keep the masses dummied down, we cannot be informed. And it's not right, it's not fair.
Today, residents were given the opportunity to voice their concerns about the charter. They say they haven't been properly informed about the possible changes.
Let's put it out there for people to look at, form a council, make an informed decision, not a stupid one that we're going to live with for the rest of our life.
Mayor Randy Tom says the Warner Robins website will be updated by tomorrow with the report of the charter review for residents to access.
It seems like we're rushing at the very end of a big change in our seats to make, a historical change in our city.
Many residents agree that the process to make amends to the charter feels rushed.
But I don't think doing it in a month is going to get the job done.
Randy Tom says the decision won't be rushed. State legislators don't start session until sometime in January.
So we still have time, even after the new council members get in office, to have more discussions.
Although the council will make recommendations to change the charter, they don't have the final say.
Unanimously agreed to some changes. I certainly think they would, consider those highly, but they can, they have the final say so.
Now, a possible change to that charter could include adding a city administrator or changing up the delegation of power within the government. We'll continue to update you as we learn more, but for now, in the control room, Jayla Whitfield.
All right, Jayla, thanks. DNA test kits can reveal more than just one's ancestry. Just ahead, why one woman says she has buyer's remorse. The City of Macon started last week a free Wi-Fi program downtown, and after a week it seems to be working pretty well, but the signal seems to be weak in some spots. Our Nick Gibson has a follow-up on how fast and slow the Wi-Fi speeds are. Nick, what'd you find out tonight?
Yeah, that's right, Aaron. Although this Wi-Fi is here in downtown Macon, I did speak with a Cox representative, and he told me that there could be a host of problems of exactly why this Wi-Fi has weak spots. 1 week ago, free Wi-Fi was installed in downtown Macon. This Wi-Fi covers Poplar Street and the crossing streets of 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Street. I did a speed test, and the strongest Wi-Fi area was on 2nd Street at 86.4 megs per second. I asked one Cox representative about why this service varied in different areas.
Your proximity to the router, your proximity to other surroundings like walls and bushes, trees, things of that nature could impact that while you're using it.
Although this free Wi-Fi is provided by Cox Communications, the actual equipment is provided by Middle Georgia State College.
So along Poplar Street, there are currently 4 access points. One is right here just outside of City Hall between here and the Rosa Parks across the street here. There's one on the Burt Maxwell building and one on top of Newtown Macon. And the last access point is atop of the parking garage just before you get to MLK. Each connection is 100 megabits per second.
Now, during my experiment, I did find out that the weakest Wi-Fi signals are actually on 3rd and also MLK Boulevard. Now, I spoke with Floyd this afternoon, and he tells me that MLK has a strong signal of Wi-Fi, but it is actually on the left side of this road. But with some spotty signals, Floyd also tells me that many people are still excited for this free Wi-Fi.
We know that the usage is there, and it seems like everything's rolling out, and everybody's taking advantage of it.
Now, one thing Floyd also told me this afternoon, that they plan to install solar Wi-Fi points, so that way people can actually be able to pick up the Wi-Fi on both sides of the road. Reporting from downtown Macon, I'm Nick Gibson.
Tariffs on a major Georgia export. How prices for the popular product could be affected. Inmate is recovering after a fight broke out at the Bibb County Jail today. The Bibb County Sheriff's Office says an inmate suffered several cuts and was taken to the medical center Navicent Health after being treated by the jail's medical staff. The Sheriff's Office says all inmates who were involved in the fight are being questioned about the aggravated assault. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation saying tonight that a man died last week at the Carroll County Jail. He's been identified as Marquise Hazlett. The GBI says at some point, Hazlett required medical attention for an illness and was placed in the medical holding unit. Hazlett was found dead in his cell 1 week ago today. An autopsy is pending while the GBI continues its investigation. 18-year-old William Johnson went before a judge today for his first appearance since being charged with killing an Alabama sheriff. Lowndes County, Alabama Sheriff John Williams was shot to death Saturday at a gas station. Now, Williams reportedly approached a truck to ask the occupants to turn down loud music when he was shot. After 4 hours on the run, Johnson turned himself in. The case hits close to home for law enforcement in the area because Johnson is the son of a Montgomery County Sheriff's deputy. The judge denied bond for Johnson. Former Broward County, Florida Sheriff Scott Israel is fighting his removal from office. He was labeled a failure, accused of neglecting his duties after the massacre at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Israel recently filed a lawsuit against Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and the Florida Senate. He calls what happened to him an illegal removal from office and says it violates due process. Home DNA test kits are easy to use and relatively inexpensive. A popular gift, they can be used to reveal your heritage, but they also offer a genetic component, and sometimes those results can be kind of scary. In tonight's Spotlight on America report, Walt Macaborski meets one woman who says, buyer beware.
My husband was really interested in ancestry.
Brittany and Sam Knowlton were ready to start a family and wanted to know more about their heritage.
Hey, why not spit in a tube and get a little bit more information about, offspring. Activating your
So
test.
they purchased one of those popular home DNA testing kits like Ancestry and 23andMe.
It was super straightforward. They send you the kit, you spit in the tube, you send it off. Done.
And it didn't take long to get the results back.
I'm mostly Eastern European, more than I thought. He is very, very Scottish and English.
Happy with the information, Brittany thought they were finished with the test. Then Sam got an email from a third-party vendor not associated with the original company. That third-party vendor then offered to upload the home DNA kit results and interpret them beyond Ancestry.
For a small extra fee, we could have the same data analyzed for medical issues, genetic stuff.
Brittany thought, why not, and agreed to do the medical testing. A few weeks later, she got a call from Sam at work.
He calls me, he says, have you heard of Lynch syndrome? And yes, I work in gastroenterology. I've heard of Lynch syndrome.
Lynch syndrome is an inherited condition that causes an increased risk for colorectal cancer. There is also an increased risk for ovarian and breast cancer.
He says, well, this test says you have it. It was horrible. It was horrible. You just start in this whirlpool of negative thought, following negative thought, following negative thought, just sucking you down.
Once Brittany calmed down, she went to an oncologist for some comprehensive genetic testing.
That was probably some of the most anxiety-ridden couple of weeks of my life.
It's difficult to avoid panicking when you get that kind of result.
Dr. Harry Thomas is a gastroenterologist. He says these tests can have good information, but they're not perfect and they're not an accurate diagnosis.
It's important to recognize that a significant proportion of these results could be falsely positive.
In fact, in a genetics and medicine report, it revealed 40% of variants in a variety of genes reported in direct-to-consumer raw data were false positives. And Dr. Thomas says there are other concerns.
There is also the potential for results to be stated as negative, when in fact you do have abnormal mutations which just haven't been tested for.
It was such a relief to finally get the official, you do not have Lynch syndrome.
Now, Brittany and Sam have a beautiful baby boy.
Get that froggy.
And she has a warning for consumers.
The ancestry part is great and fun, and go for it, but anything clinical, take with a very large grain of salt.
For Spotlight on America, I'm Walt Makaborski.
Welcome into the Skywatch Weather Center. Jeff Cox with you on this Monday night. Current time is 10:18. We're busy tonight tracking our next weather maker. Here it is illustrated on the weather map. So a lot to look at. Let's break down what we're talking about. First of all, timeline, Wednesday. So day before Thanksgiving, we've got an East Coast storm system. Now the energy for this storm system, your red L, that's your area of low pressure, it's up around the Great Lakes. So in a system like this, in terms of Georgia's impacts, it gets very stretched out. And when that happens, we tend to not get a lot of impact in middle and southwest Georgia. And in the end, I think that's what's going to happen on Wednesday. Nonetheless, there's a rain chance that we'll have to track. Now, as you get closer to that low, notice these white lines. Those are what we call isobars. That's defined as a line of constant pressure. And notice how close they are together around that low, a sign of very windy weather around that low. So pretty wicked up north, but for us, we'll have a little bit of rain come through. Then on the backside, high pressure builds in, and that should provide us with a decent Thanksgiving Day and Black Friday. So tonight, we use our simulated radar to track this rain chance. Notice tomorrow morning, timeline, we start here at 8 o'clock in middle Georgia. And yes, we'll have some cloud cover to start the day. And through the afternoon, a little bit of sunshine will sneak through. So we'll call Tuesday a mix of sun and clouds, but it will be a dry day. Then as we go into Wednesday, by Wednesday morning, cloud cover building back in. And you'll notice above the banner there, a few showers towards metro Atlanta and back into eastern Alabama. But we'll start our day in middle Georgia dry on Wednesday. Then as we go into the afternoon, blink and you'll miss it. There's your rain chance. Not a lot, but there will be a few showers that sneak through Wednesday afternoon. All of this moves through Wednesday night, and by Thursday morning, we're back to sunshine. So again, Thanksgiving Day looking pretty nice right now with a northwest breeze coming in, ushering in some drier air. Let's do the same thing for southwest Georgia. So our simulated radar got you started in the morning around 7 o'clock for you early risers. And again, the day starts out with some cloud cover. And then as we go through the midday and afternoon hours, we'll get a decent amount of sunshine. So partly cloudy tomorrow. Overall, not a bad day. A nice southerly flow by 5 o'clock. As we go Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, clouds will build back in, especially west of I-75. And by the afternoon, again, blink and you'll miss it. There's your rain chance. I think best rain chance for southwest Georgia stays west of I-75. A lot of that looks to try to dry out as it moves east of I-75. And then by Thanksgiving morning, we've got quite a bit of sunshine to enjoy for the day. So overall, Thanksgiving and Black Friday look pretty nice. Then what about this weekend? After Wednesday, that'll be your next weather maker. And the timing appears to be Sunday. But the question is when Sunday and for how long? So tonight we're doing a model snapshot. On the top is the American forecast model for my weather weenies watching the GFS. And the timeline for Sunday afternoon shows the wet weather out of middle and southwest Georgia. So you'd be able to salvage your Sunday afternoon. But on the bottom is the European model. And notice here it shows wet weather for the same time frame in middle and southwest Georgia. So we know rain is coming for Sunday, but the question is when and how much. And right now we really can't answer that with too much reliability and accuracy because there's a big divergence among the forecast models that far out. So our team will be tracking it closely, especially for middle Georgia. The Christmas parade in Macon is Sunday afternoon. So that'll be a big part of the forecast we have to watch closely. All right, here's what the 10-day looks like. Up first, middle Georgia, real warm, 60s and 70s for the rest of this week. A little bit of rain Wednesday, but nothing to write home about. Pretty nice for Thanksgiving Day and Black Friday. There's your next rain chance on Sunday. Could impact the Christmas parade in Macon. Big story is next week, it's cold. Lows in the 30s and highs in the 50s. In southwest Georgia, how about 80 degrees on Wednesday? Incredible warmth. We stay in the 70s through at least Sunday, but the bottom falls out next week with 30s and 50s starting Monday. More news and weather coming up after this break. Stay tuned.
Also coming up, click it or ticket. The message coming straight from the Governor's Office of Highway Safety will tell you the worst day to hit the road this week. War on trade continues. State representatives and local growers are working to reduce the price on U.S. pecan exports to both India and China. Jake Mammon is standing by with the latest details on what's being done to tackle this issue. Jake.
Aaron, trade wars between the U.S. and foreign countries date back to the 1970s when agreements were established and signed. Recently, however, there's been a steep increase on tariffs between India and China and the U.S., and this has made it very challenging for American pecan growers, which hurts the economy. Those effects are being felt here in Georgia.
The lack of exports, it is millions and millions of dollars.
Congressman Austin Scott, who is a part of the House Agriculture Committee, says China is the #1 importer of pecans. However, the current Chinese tariff on pecans is up 40% from last year, causing issues for local growers.
So last year, our market took a huge nosedive, both in the volume of pecans going to China and in the price that the growers were receiving.
In addition, tariffs in India are high. Congressman Scott says the tariff on pecans is up 35% compared to a 10% tariff on a variety of other nuts.
So what we've asked is that U.S. trade negotiators get the tariff on pecans with India reduced to the same level that it is for other tree nuts going into India.
According to Congressman Scott, lowering tariffs on pecans would provide a much-needed economic boost to rural America. It's not that easy, though. Mark Sanchez with Lane Southern Orchards believes it may take some time.
Unfortunately, it's part of a bigger issue of trade issues, and so our little part of it, it's important to us, extremely important to us, but in the whole big picture, it kind of gets mixed in with everything else.
Despite the challenges, local growers know they have to make adjustments to account for the losses.
Our revenues are down, so we have to do things to offset that, try to cut costs where we can. We know it's just temporary. We know this is going to get resolved at some point.
Now, Congressman Scott states the pecan industry contributes over $3.57 billion to the economies of the 15 pecan-producing states in the United States. Over the last 10 years, exports alone have pumped an additional $1.25 billion in economic activity into rural America. Reducing trade barriers into India is an opportunity to strengthen the economy of rural America. Reporting at the Live Desk, I'm Jake Mammon. Jeff?
All right, Jake, thanks so much. Current time 10:27. We are live up at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. This will be a busy camera to watch over the next few days as we keep an eye on weather systems that will not only impact the region, but nationally as you begin your travel plans to celebrate Thanksgiving. At the airport tonight, 48, no wind to speak of, so pretty tranquil on the surface. But in the upper atmosphere, a little bit of a different story. I'll show you that in a moment. Let's examine delays from across the country. Most of the major hubs are delay-free with the exception of Denver. We're showing some moderate delays now with an increasing trend. So travel in and out of Denver right now is a little bit troublesome. I mentioned things are a little bumpy in the upper atmosphere. Here's why. We've got a raging jet stream that dips around the Four Corners region, goes up into the upper plains, and then right back into the deep south. And it's along that jet stream that we are detecting some bumpy rides, and so there are reports in the orange of moderate turbulence in parts of the country, including right here in Georgia. A few flights approaching Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson reporting light to moderate turbulence, and in South Georgia there is moderate turbulence there as well. So anyone flying through the region tonight in store for a little bit of a bumpy ride. So if you're expecting someone to come into the airport this evening, you may get a story about the bumps along the way. Quick check of the national map for the day before Thanksgiving. Our East Coast system, which will bring some rain to middle and southwest Georgia, but not a whole lot. More active weather to the north. Then our big storm system out west marches east for Thanksgiving Day. It'll hang out in the midsection of the country, but here in the deep south, we are looking really, really nice for Turkey Day. We'll talk about a cold night ahead that's coming up in our second half hour.
A social media post causing some panic tonight why the myth of the white van could cause harm to possible human trafficking victims.
Need to notice all the many ways that human trafficking can happen, many ways that people get taken advantage of instead of this one thing.
New at 10, there's a possibility that we could be overlooking valuable information regarding human trafficking in the region. Aaron Wise joins us now with more on this story. Aaron.
Social media has been flooded with posts of white vans being in connection with human trafficking. I talked to experts who say this connection is not always true, and it could be taking away from actual signs of trafficking.
It's not always as easily spotted as a white van on the streets.
Human trafficking, an issue prevalent in Middle Georgia, recently associated with white vans in social media posts shared thousands of times. There is a reason behind why we are so quick to call those in white vans culprits of the crime.
Psychologically, it's called confirmation bias. It's an efficiency for sort of narrowing down the complexity of our life. If you buy a new car, and then all of a sudden you see that car all over the place and you hadn't even noticed it before. So when somebody raises our attention about a thing, we begin to see it more.
This act has the potential to cause valuable clues of human trafficking to be lost in the shuffle.
It is a real problem when we just look for one thing. But it's amazing how it stirs people's fear and it draws all that attention. And it's hysteria, and it's unfortunate.
While white vans have the possibility of carrying those participating in human trafficking, just like any other vehicle, they are not the only indicators we should look for.
It could be that someone is speaking to children online. They could be speaking to them in public places. Could be situations like boyfriending, which is involved where younger girls or younger boys are coaxed into and tricked into human trafficking through relationships.
Clues are hard to see with the naked eye, but staying vigilant and aware of other possibilities than just the white van next to you could mean the difference between life and death.
Now, the public is encouraged to remember, if you see something, say something.
Yeah, absolutely. Good advice there. I want to take this moment to welcome Aaron Wise to the team here. Tell us a little bit about yourself and where you came from.
Yeah, of course. I'm really happy to be here. I'm originally from Roanoke, Alabama, but I graduated from Auburn University, Wgxa, and I'm just really excited to be here and to be serving this great community.
Yeah, well, we won't hold that against you, but there's always been a little, we've been working with her for the past, three weeks or so. There's been a little confusion in the newsroom because both of our names are Aaron. So I have never paid more attention in the newsroom than I have these past 3 weeks. Everyone says, "What's Aaron's story?" And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know I had one today." But,
yeah, definitely trying to get past that confusion.
Right. Yeah. Well, welcome to the team. We appreciate you being here,
you.
And we're looking forward to working with you. We're going to send things over to the Weather Center with Chief Meteorologist Jeff Cox.
Aaron, thanks so much. It's 1.0 and 2.0. That's how I've kept them separate. All right, and Aaron 2.0, she was brave enough to shout Wgxa in Middle Georgia. That could be a little troublesome, right? All right, let's talk numbers tonight. Woo, it's chilly out there. 37 in Gray, 36 in Dublin, 39 Eastman, and most of the region still in the 40s, but a few 30s are out there. And we've still got the rest of the night to go, so no doubt needing the winter jacket tomorrow morning. Here's the evening planner, an ambitious 39 to start the day, and that may be a little on the warm side. Mid-50s by lunchtime and upper 50s by 5 o'clock. Should top out around 60 tomorrow afternoon. In southwest Georgia, latest numbers here, most of us are in the 40s. Look at Blakely, though, holding on to 37 right now. It's 44 here in Albany, 46 up the road in Leesburg, 48 in Ocilla, and 48 right now in Adel. Here's the day planner for your Tuesday in southwest Georgia, mid-30s around 8 o'clock, low 60s by lunchtime, and mid-60s by 5 o'clock with a mix of sun and clouds. All right, coming up in just a bit, that midweek rain chance. We'll break it down for you hour by hour. I'll have the national maps as you plan your travel. And what about that chance for rain this weekend? That plus your 10-day forecast. A lot to talk about. It's coming up in just a bit.
All right, Jeff, we'll see you then. New tonight, the Governor's Office of Highway Safety kicked off the Click It or Ticket campaign today. Now, the purpose of the campaign is to make sure drivers are out wearing their seatbelts and obeying all those traffic laws. Sergeant Craig Singletary says the Wednesday before Thanksgiving is one of the worst days in traffic. Singletary says this is due to the amount of people traveling to go see family for the holiday, and they want to do everything they can to lower the number of fatalities. He says they see a 50 to 75% increase on the roadways. Singletary says this is not a ticket campaign for Georgia State Patrol, but a life-saving campaign.
Put your cell phone down. Cell phones are a leading cause of fatal crashes and crashes in the state of Georgia, so put that down. You don't need that distraction. not just with your driving, but with the other folks.
That Click It or Ticket campaign will be going on until the end of this week.
I'm still a little shook up, but I thank God I survived. It could have been worse. I'm glad I'm still here.
An overturned semi snarled traffic on I-75 northbound in Bibb County late this afternoon. The driver of the semi, Marcus Jones, says someone was swerving, possibly to avoid hitting debris, and then hit him. This all happened near the Arkwright Road exit. Jones travels this interstate every other day from Savannah to Atlanta and back to Macon, and says he notices a lot of debris on the road.
The lady tried to avoid that was in the road, and she hit the object and lost control and hit the barricade and bounced off. I was in the middle lane, so I traveled at the speed, and she bounced off, lost control and hit me, and that made the truck. I lost control and made the truck turn over.
Jones says he's just glad he was wearing a seatbelt. We don't have details of the condition for the other driver that was involved. Across the state tonight, the star point guard for the Kennesaw State University women's basketball team has been charged with murder. The Fulton County District Attorney's Office says Kamaya Street admitted to being involved in the killing of Nashim Etienne, who was found shot inside of a parking deck in July. Now, she's one of 5 people indicted on charges including murder. 4 of the 5 suspects have been arrested. Police are still looking for the 5th suspect. 17 children and 4 adults are being evaluated for carbon monoxide poisoning at a daycare facility in Atlanta. Several of them were taken to area hospitals for further evaluation with non-life-threatening symptoms. Atlanta media reporting tonight the cause may be a gas furnace that wasn't installed correctly. Let's take a look at some developing stories across the country we're following for you. A Florida woman charged with murder after reporting a dead body found in her driveway. Also, authorities in Texas say wild hogs may be to blame for the death of a woman, and 2 people are dead after a shooting at a family medicine center in North Carolina. But first, that story out of South Florida for you. Police there say a murder suspect deleted video of the alleged crime. 51-year-old Yvonne Serrano is charged with shooting 21-year-old Daniela Maya Saturday morning. Coral Springs police say Serrano called 911 to report a dead body in her driveway, but as they investigated, officers say evidence pointed to Serrano. They allege she deleted video from her Ring camera and washed her clothes, leading to additional charges of tampering with evidence. Serrano is currently in the Broward County Jail. A disturbing story out of Texas where wild hogs may have been involved in the death of a caregiver. Authorities say Christine Rollins was found dead with multiple animal bites on her body. When Rollins didn't show up to work Sunday, her elderly patient searched for her. The 59-year-old was found dead in front of the home where she works. Neighbors say they have complained about wild hogs in that area recently. And 2 people have been shot to death at a medical facility in North Carolina. Police say shots were fired outside of the UNC Family Medicine Center in Durham. When it opened this morning, the victims are reportedly a male and a female, but their identity has not been released. Aerial footage shows police activity and ambulances at that scene. Police have not released any information about the suspects or a motive in that deadly attack. This is the 3rd deadly shooting in Durham in the past 2 days.
I'm Christine Frizzau on Capitol Hill with an impeachment inquiry timeline. I'll lay out the next steps and tell you why there could be much more to come.
Thanksgiving's considered one of the busiest travel periods of the holiday season, and this year will be no exception. Millions of people are making plans to kick off the holiday season with a trip of 50 miles or more away from home. This will be the 2nd highest Thanksgiving travel volume since AAA began tracking it back in 2000, trailing only the record set in 2005.
The reason people want to travel this much this year, they have more disposable income. They want to get on the road. Their vehicles are a little bit safer, and people want to enjoy that family time. But before you get on the road, it'd be great to get your vehicle inspected. Now, AAA offers a 24-point inspection in our actual car care locations, all 6 in the Metro Atlanta area. Also be careful about how much you're traveling with, how much additional luggage in your vehicle, because the more luggage you have, it actually increases your braking speed by the weight of the vehicle.
Here in Georgia, there are an estimated 1.6 million travelers that'll be hitting the roads. And with the holiday season upon us, now's a good time to be mindful to protect yourself from card scams. This time of the year, debit and credit card scamming is on the rise, and officials say you should be mindful that your purchases in person and online are secure. Crisp County Sheriff Billy Hancock says a few preventative actions can save you in the end.
Make sure that we check our bank statements. If we go off shopping, go back and look at your bank statement online if you have that capability. If not, when that bank statement comes in, be certain to go over it line item by line item so that you can make sure nothing's been charged on your account that you wasn't aware of.
Hancock says to hide your PIN number when entering it on the keypad in public. Also, putting a certain amount of needed cash is suggested, just in case your card is acquired. A House subpoena for the president's financial records, how the Supreme Court ruled on those records becoming public.
From the Terrorism Alert Desk in Washington, I'm Lindsay Mastis. Vice President Mike Pence made an unannounced visit to Iraq over the weekend. He visited 2 U.S. military bases, including at an air base in Erbil, which is where U.S. Special Operations Forces are often based. He spoke to troops and promised to get them the resources they need to accomplish their mission. Protesters are clashing with 2 groups in Lebanon, including Hezbollah, which the U.S. designated as a foreign terrorist organization in the 90s. Reuters is reporting that anti-government demonstrators have been protesting for about 5 weeks and are calling for a revolution. At the Terrorism Alert Desk in Washington, I'm Lindsay Mastis.
Trump won a temporary legal victory today as the U.S. Supreme Court granted his emergency request to block a House subpoena for his financial records. The House of Representatives subpoenaed the records from Trump's longtime accounting firm. The president is fighting on several fronts to keep that information from becoming public. Well, now both sides must present their arguments about whether the court should agree to hear President Trump's appeal. Tonight, lawmakers are back in their districts for the Thanksgiving holiday following 2 long weeks on Capitol Hill. So what's next after the House impeachment inquiry against President Trump? Our national Sinclair correspondent Christine Frizzell tells us the process may be moving rapidly, but it's far from wrapped up.
The quiet on Capitol Hill, a veil of sorts for what's going on behind the scenes.
While it may look like lights out in Congress, there's a lot of midnight oil being burned.
Do you swear?
Committee members and staffers now drafting a report based on information gathered from 12 witnesses over the last 2 weeks of public hearings.
We have to decide what does it mean, and once we conclude our investigation, if we decide that it means that the president should be held accountable.
The House Intelligence Committee still considering the possibility there could be more.
We are going to continue to pursue
even after
the documents.
Handed in the report, you're going to
yes.
continue?
Oh, yes. The investigation isn't going to end.
Other potential witnesses include Lev Parnas, the Ukrainian-American business associate of Rudy Giuliani. His lawyer said in a tweet he's got firsthand information that is important to our nation. And former National Security Advisor John Bolton, who has so far declined to appear. The next chapter likely includes public hearings beginning as soon as next week and a vote held by the House Judiciary Committee. Then a vote by the full House on whether to impeach the president, possibly before Christmas, followed by a trial in the Senate early next year. There are some mixed reviews in terms of the way the process is playing out here on Capitol Hill, with some saying it's moving far too fast and others raising concerns the American public could become fatigued if it drags out too long.
I do think Democrats need to be wary of whether they are selling this too much, whether they are convincing the American public of a point that many of them are already sold on.
But he says Democrats have also laid out an airtight case, with many Republicans now shifting their argument, choosing to defend the president's actions rather than deny them. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzell.
Christine, thanks for that report. Current time is 10:49. Jeff Cox with you in the Skywatch Weather Center. We're busy tonight tracking our next weather maker. And while it will bring some weather to the region, I don't think it's going to bring a whole lot. Here's why. So it's a very busy weather map. Look at the timeline, by the way. This is Wednesday, day before Thanksgiving. Big weather system in general for the eastern third of the country, but the lion's share of the weather will be north of Georgia, closer to this red L, your area of low pressure. That's the energy for this system. What's happening As the low goes way north of Georgia, it ends up stretching the system out. And so those of us in the deep south tend to get left out, and we don't get a lot of impact from it. Now, once you go north of Georgia, notice all of these white lines surrounding the low. Those are what we call isobars, lines of constant pressure. And when they're tightly packed like this, that's a sign of pretty windy weather. So this system is going to be howling up north, but for us in the deep south, maybe a little bit of rain and that's it. So let's break it down for you. Here it is, our simulated radar. I'll start in middle Georgia. Notice the timeline here, Tuesday morning. So tomorrow morning, waking up to some cloud cover. By the afternoon, should enjoy quite a bit of sunshine and a wind from the south. As we go Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, clouds begin to thicken back up and a few showers in North Georgia and eastern Alabama. By Wednesday afternoon, look closely or you'll miss it. There's our rain chance. So our simulated radar, our forecast model says don't expect a lot of rain Wednesday afternoon. Anything that tries to push through is gone Wednesday night, and it's back to some nice weather for Thanksgiving Day. All right, let's talk in southwest Georgia for a moment. Again, similar story. Tuesday morning, waking up to some cloud cover. By Tuesday afternoon, quite a bit of sunshine, especially east of I-75. Then we go Wednesday morning with clouds building back in from the west, and our cold front comes in Wednesday afternoon, and again, there's your rain chance. Not much to it. It'll get out of here Wednesday night, and it's back to sunshine for your Thanksgiving Day. So a small chance of rain for the middle of the week, and that'll usher in some nice weather for Thanksgiving and Black Friday. After that, your next rain chance this weekend, sometime Sunday. We're still ironing out those details as we learn more about that system. All right, here's what the 10-day forecast looks like. Up first, middle Georgia, 60s and 70s for the rest of the week into the weekend. A little bit of rain on Sunday. Could it impact Macon's Christmas parade? To be determined. Then next week, big cold, 30s for lows and 50s for afternoon highs. In southwest Georgia, how about an 80 on Wednesday with that small rain chance? Then another chance of rain Sunday. You too in southwest Georgia get the cool down next week with 30s back by early next week. Stay tuned. We've got more news and weather coming up after this break. Welcome back. Current time 10:54. We'll spend part of our week tracking travel concerns across the country at places like this, Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, where right now temperatures are in the mid-40s and a calm wind at the surface, so no major issues at the airport, and as a result, we are delay-free in Atlanta. Most of the country delay-free at the big hubs, but Denver the exception, and delays are actually increasing right now. So in and out of Denver, we've got some concerns tonight. Now, the other story we're following, not necessarily at the airports, but way up in the upper atmosphere where the jet stream is. You can see that highlighted in purple where the jet stream sneaks down in the Four Corners region, comes into the upper plains, and then comes right through Georgia tonight. And so what you're looking at here are reports of turbulence coming from the actual flights as they fly through these areas. And notice there are quite a bit of orange plains on the map. That's a sign of moderate turbulence, including reports of that in Georgia. So if you're expecting anyone to come into Hartsfield-Jackson tonight, you may get stories of some bumpy flights this evening. Several pilots are reporting turbulence across the state of Georgia tonight. Quick check of the day before Thanksgiving map. That East Coast storm will be fizzling out in the deep south. Big storm system develops out west. That will march east for Thanksgiving Day. Big snows in parts of Colorado and Missouri and all of that folks out west. But for the deep south, Thanksgiving Day looking fine right now. Aaron?
Finally tonight, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas in Georgia, so get in the spirit and join us this Sunday at 4 o'clock for the Downtown Macon Christmas Parade. We'll have live team coverage from the parade along Cherry Street downtown, but if you can't be there in person, join us on Facebook Live, and don't forget to stick around downtown after the parade to enjoy the Christmas lights extravaganza on Poplar Street. Again, that's this Sunday at 4 o'clock in downtown. We'll be live on Facebook, we'll record the parade, and then we'll play that back a couple of days next week, I believe. Yeah. And then also the Christmas parade in Albany is coming up on the 7th. Woohoo. And meteorologist Carrie Capello, who works behind the scenes, and myself will be broadcasting that parade too.
Awesome.
And we'll be playing that back.
You're just a jolly old elf this
jolly
year.
Old elf, yeah. We got all the parades. So that is all the time we have on this Monday evening. As always, thank you so much for watching.
Daily Mail is coming up next. Have a great night.